Okay, so indeed, as the title suggests, we have experienced a huge boom of solar PV self-consumption in Spain in the last couple of years. So last year, doubling the total installed capacity in Spain and reaching more than 5 gigas. The objective of this panel today is to discuss not only why we got here and what are the drivers behind that growth that the market has experienced, but mainly to discuss the challenges ahead and how to tackle them so that the industry can remain profitable and can remain sustainable in a market where there is big demand, but there's also big competition, and where we anticipate some market consolidation. We would also like to talk about what it really takes to win in this space. So probably starting with Roger, with a more of a holistic view of how the market is evolving in Spain. If you can tell us what are the, let's say, 2-3 drivers behind the growth that we've experienced and how we got here in the first place.
Well, thanks, Jorge, for the introduction, and thanks, EnergyBox, for inviting us. As you mentioned, Jorge, we are at a pace of growth in distributed PV, reaching more than 5 gigawatts, actually. So we expect to reach 6 gigawatts at the end of the month. And also a very good rate of attachment when it comes to behind-the-meter storage. So we are talking about 600, more or less, megawatt hours of energy storage. And that means that almost 100,000 of installations have a battery attached to solar power. The drivers are two. So crazy electricity prices in 2022, and also support schemes in place for the Spanish government. So I think it's not only on which are the drivers of adoption of rooftop solar, but how the future adoption would look like, because prices are stabilizing somehow, and support schemes are about to expire on December this year. So what else we need to keep the growing pace and to reach these 19 gigawatts of distributed solar that the MITECO targets for 2030.
Okay, thanks, Roger. Borja, maybe following on the prices, right? So behind this adoption is a continuous reduction of module or system costs on the one hand, expectations of high electricity prices that we had in the past, and all the turmoil and the volatility we experienced in the last couple of years. Now the picture might look different, or what's your view on how this is going to be evolving in the next couple of years with regards to system prices and power prices as well, right?
First of all, thanks to EnergyBox for allowing ASP to be here. As you mentioned, and also earlier, I think that there are some factors that came together in the past years, such as the electricity prices rise and the system prices down. However, prices are varying between last year and this year, so let's skip it for now. I think that briefly answering the question of the panel, as I said, a lot of factors came together. The derogation of the sun tax, impuesto al sol, we know, the subsidies that we also mentioned that are about to expire, and the thing of the electricity price and the system prices. These factors that are about to expire or that are going to be established in the following years must, I think, establish a good base for the self-consumption to keep growing in Spain. But I think that we should start thinking in storage not as mandatory, but as necessary, very necessary in the country. There are some data that I would like to highlight. For instance, last year only in Valencia, in la Comunidad Valenciana, 18 gigawatts hour were, let's say, wasted because the net is not, let's say, ready to adopt them. We cannot be a country that wastes 18 gigawatts hour when we are generating them. So I think we are in a strong position for the self-consumption to keep growing, maybe not with the rates of the past year. That should not be let's say the reference for the upcoming years. But I think that with companies being aware of that energy is one of their main spend in their profit and loss, with people being conscious also on the importance of the environment, self-consumption is going to keep growing, but I would like to again highlight the importance of taking storage as very necessary.
Okay, Maria, I know you've been involved in projects related to storage. So what's the business case for a storage investment for one of your B2B clients? So where's the value and how do you see that moving forward?
Well, thank you for the organization for inviting Engie. We're happy to share our thoughts. And with regards to your question, okay, we are starting to see clients asking for, okay, solar plus batteries, but still they are early adopters, you know. I think we'll need further remuneration schemes, I don't know, grants or coming from the grid, but still the economics are so-so, you know. We have several examples at Engie, but most of them are not in Spain.
Anyone from other countries that you could comment on?
Yeah, for example, we have one in Belgium, in the port of Amberes. It's the first logistic company with no emissions. They already had a wind turbine. They added solar, and we also had a Tesla. It's 1 megawatt project. It's super nice. But still in Spain, it's complicated. You know, I don't know if Roger can share the data split by business, B2B and B2C. But of course, B2C, you can see 10 to 30% of clients installing also batteries. But for industry clients, I insist it's still early adopters. But with such a huge penetration of batteries in Spain, that it's achieving year-on-year highest expectations from analysts. I think, I'm sure storage is now an urgency, and it will be tackled by the next government.
Yeah. Okay. Francisco, right? So we discussed yesterday, the day before, around the fact that distributed solar self-consumption is a change of paradigm with regards to the standard or the traditional power market. Right now, the developers, integrated utilities, you name it, they need to think more about client requirements. So what is it to you that is like the key success factor in terms of meeting those client requirements, and what type of solutions do you think that make more sense to push them, right?
Okay, thank you. Well, let me add some details and names and family names to the introduction you made about Quantica, because Quantica probably is a well-known company in the top list of self-consumption companies last year. But apart of that, we are also Hanwha, we are Q-Cells, we are Imagina Energía, we are Jelly. So at the end of the day, we are combining a lot of value-added services. We are vertically integrated, probably the most vertically integrated company right now in Spain. And what we detect is that in the last couple of years, probably, we have installed much more megawatt for self-consumption systems than in the last 20 or 30 years. And believe me, I was here 30 years ago. I can detect and enjoy the development of the technologies in modules, batteries, inverters, etc. But we are missing something, in our opinion, or in my opinion, because those hundreds of thousands of energy consumers that have installed solar systems their houses or in their factories or in their business so far. They are called prosumer, but in my opinion, they are not prosumer at all, or at least they are not an active prosumer, because they can not take the control of the energy solution. They cannot decide what to do with the energy produced, with the energy stored in the batteries. Things are working along, but without any decision process from the prosumer. And that is, in my opinion, what needs to be changed. At Hanwha Group, not in Spain, but probably before the end of the year, we will start implementing software and hardware to allow the customer to do that. But in other countries like US, Australia, and Germany, we are providing hardware and software solution to allow the customer to decide how to use the energy. And even in some markets, our customers are able to make energy arbitrage with the energy they have in the batteries. So it is great to have seen the development on product, but I think that we need to develop a lot other technologies or other software or applications to allow the customer to have the power.
So everything that is related to energy management and not exclusively, let's say, pulling from the system, but rather a more dynamic system management. So probably Lorenzo has also, sitting right next to you, has some experiences to share around that specific domain in the B2B sector, right? Around energy communities. So we've seen some regulatory changes recently, and there is also a hope that the energy communities will provide an additional boost to self-consumption business models. Any learnings from that you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And well, first of all, thanks for the invite, also to Energy Box. And yeah, I think the market potential, the long-term market potential of collective self-consumption is massive. It's really the segment which can unlock gigawatts in terms of rooftop solar development. So I think in terms of regulation, there's some bases which have been already defined. And which is enabling, already a growth within the market, even though there's still a lot to do in terms of how the generators relate with distribution companies and the access of grid connection. But yeah, basically how we have developed in-house expertise at Eki with collective self-consumption. Well, our background is the development of more than 700 megawatts in the north of Europe on logistic roof assets. And based on that background, we came to the Spanish market 3 years ago with a very large logistic client base. But when we came here and we tried to develop a full roof capacity project, we saw that we didn't have any subsidy like we had in the Benelux. And we didn't have the comfort of the Dutch government, and it was a subsidy-free market, right? And that was especially challenging, but it also enabled an opportunity as we already knew from the beginning that we needed to go via the collective self-consumption route, right? Because the tenant of a logistic warehouse, doesn't have much demand. So if you want to self-consume the electricity you produce, you need to do it collectively, among consumers within 2 kilometers radius. Typically, the business case of delivering to the grid and going merchant for a rooftop solar business case is not really feasible because the cost, the capex of a roof installation is higher, the yield is lower than a ground-mounted. So we had to look into ways to commercialize the power, not to the market, but to the neighbors at a higher tariff, right? So we acquired an energy retailer within the business so that we would be able to, carry out these projects, and that has positioned us, pretty well within the logistics segment, and we're now, working with many logistic funds which are interested in developing full rooftop solar capacity projects, right? What challenges
which means not being an EPC company only, but also going to the market through PPAs, through more active commercialization, right?
Exactly. As Eki, we are an energy service provider, and what we do is we help logistic and industrial clients in their energy transition journey. by developing and investing in technologies and products which help them reduce costs and improve sustainability. And in terms of collective self-consumption, we're now in discussions with the key players in terms of logistic funds. Already have built the largest rooftop solar project in Spain, which is 4.5 megawatts for Nuvin. And right now, the challenges we see to unlock all this potential is, specifically focusing two items. One, grid connection capacity. We do have, I was speaking with a logistic client which has a portfolio of 50 megawatts, but only 10 megawatts of their assets have grid connection capacity. So we are not able to implement grid connection, a collective self-consumption project because there is no grid connection capacity. I think from UNEF and from the Spanish government, it would be important that we push that these projects get automatic or direct grid connection access, because it really doesn't impact the distribution and transmission network, because everything is self-consumed within 2 kilometers radius. So I think, the players in the industry and UNEF, we need to push towards that direction. And other than that, I think the prospects for collective self-consumption are really exciting, and the potential is huge.
So following on that, so it's not only the grid connection issues, but the industry as a whole has been complaining also about local permitting constraints, permitting requirements, lack of transparency around procedures. Along these two lines, Vladimir, and Vladimir has had an experience as a member of the parliament in Bulgaria, so he knows about energy policy. Is there any lessons learned from your past experience that you'd like to share on these two fronts, on how to streamline, let's say, regulatory requirements and also how to streamline access to the grid?
Thank you, Jorge. I was lucky enough to be member of parliament and heading the energy commission within the parliament in the last 2 years in Bulgaria when we had the energy price revolution. So it was very, very exciting times. And there are a couple of conclusions that I make myself as a businessman now looking from the other side. And one of the conclusions that I came to was that governments and regulatory bodies really do not know the technologies that are out there, and they lack experience and know-how into integrating legislation so that it really makes our life easier and the business models work. So what we did, for example, in Bulgaria, when price skyrocketed and 3-4 times due to the gas crisis, we quickly changed initially the energy efficiency subsidies, because energy efficiency is the first thing that you come into mind in order to save energy. But the second regulatory initiative that we took was self-consumption. I think this is the universal pill and the quickest win in renewable energy. Now what we did was we said, okay, no more grid connection waiting time longer than 3 weeks for anybody for self-consumption, and also for battery storage we removed any requirements for construction permit. And I was reaching out within the European Commission with colleagues within the different governments, and I was surprised to see that there was very little capacity. So I think it's in sense of people being able to really initiate legislative changes. And I think it's the people in this room and in conference like this one that should be more proactive and try to push the governments, the regulatory bodies, with ideas, with pilot projects, in order to instigate the necessary regulatory changes. Otherwise, coming from the other side, it's very, very difficult to make the regulation work in such a way that the business case is protected, and at the same time consumers are protected as well. So that's one of the conclusions that I had.
And one of the hopes is also that overall our political landscape believes in the power of self-consumption, and that's something that is being pushed, and that presumably, and regardless of the colors of the party we have, is something that will be on the agenda. So moving maybe on to Stuart, right, on the on the B2C specifically, right? When we look around the table and we see how many of us are working in this space, the level of competition coming from, let's say, the large utilities, from the smaller installers, the B2C is somehow getting crowded, and increasingly more your competitive angle plays a relevant role in securing profitability, right? And so what's your take on what players need to do differently to sustain and to make a business out of this?
Okay. Well, first of all, I'm really happy to be here because you will find this very difficult to believe, I know, but I started my photovoltaic career here in Madrid 33 years ago with Mr. Canessa at the far end there. I know we don't look old enough, but we are in fact old enough. And I'm kind of like one of those people that goes to a restaurant down the road and finds a great restaurant, and you're stuck with the idea of, do I put a review on TripAdvisor or do I keep the secret to myself? So my company Solar Solutions, we have the commercial rights to sell the brand of AG, which I'm sure most of you know is a very well-known German domestic appliance brand. We started in 2016 basically selling solar panels. And it took us from 2016 to 2021 to sell the first 1 million solar panels. It took us from 2021 to last week to sell the second 1 million. And we now sell batteries and inverters and energy management systems combined. And I think that one of the things that I imagine most of you know McKinsey, the big consultancy company. They have a study that they did that said that 63% of the population are prepared to pay 15% more for a brand or for quality that they understand. And I think that's the key to the smaller commercial and residential kind of issues that we have in Spain and in other countries is you're going and talking to people who really don't understand our world and our industry, and it's fine for us to say, oh, the inverter gets 94% of the energy and your battery will have 10,000 cycles. And people don't understand. What they want to be able to do is to understand a simple solution that they know that will work for them and work for their family and that they're prepared to pay for. And once you get something like a brand that people recognize, then the conversation around, is this going to work for me, a great deal of that's taken away. So I think that in Spain and other countries, we have to work harder on getting the B2C world, the commercial, the customer world, to understand what it is they're buying and to take some of the fright away. Because I love analysts. Analysts are great. They come and they tell you that next year we're going to install 3 gigawatts of solar power in Spain. Thank you very much, Mr. Analyst, but you don't have to sell it. We do. And so every single watt of power, every battery is sold by someone to someone else. And the ability to take some of the difficulties away of the conversation of selling accelerates the rate of adoption of those products. So I think it's very much around creating a knowledge base for people to understand what they're actually purchasing and how it will function for them in their world.
That's a very good point. I think most of us working in the energy space a few years back were either engineers or finance people. And now with the self-consumption, the energy sector is moving towards the consumer products into retail, right? And here, everything that's related to financing solutions for, not only for individuals or for the residential sector, but also for the B2B, starts to be increasingly relevant. Everything that is, and companies are building vehicles to finance facilities. What's the key for success to remove that barrier that you were referring to before, and make the commercialization of such a solution easy, finance-wise? I don't know who wants to take this one. Anything on financing these type of solutions that is a...
hopefully we have had some experience both for B2B and B2C solutions. After the merger between Quantica and Hanwha Group, I have become responsible for B2C solutions. And this morning I have met a couple of, or more friends, but a couple of them asking me, what are you doing now after the merger? I said, I am responsible for B2C. The two of them, they said, oof, I am so sorry for you. Because it is a hard time for B2C. Yeah, well, it is true that this year the demand of B2C solution is lower than last year, but it is on the hands of every company to detect why that demand has been reduced. And in our opinion, it's a combination, probably more, but a combination of energy prices, market energy prices going down, financial restriction, etc. But it is a matter of adapting our value proposition and offering financing solution to clients. And so far, we have succeeded offering different business model for B2C and B2B. And well, I think that people is willing to continue benefiting of a cheap energy, but not as many people as last year can invest with their own money. So at the end, there are financial institutions or corporate funds very happy to invest on PV because the return is quite attractive and quite safe and stable.
And are you seeing industrials commit to PPAs with these volatile prices? I don't know, Borja or Maria?
Yeah, at least talking by ourselves in ASP, we're seeing an increase in the demand for PPAs, which talking again about financing is nothing but a product finance. I mean, clients want to know how much they're going to spend in energy in the next 10, 12, 15 years, and they are not willing to make a big expense in the short term. So that's a good solution for big projects or for big companies that want a solar PV installation in their industry, but for any reason they don't want to make a big invest. That in B2B, and in B2C we are also seeing how many banks are offering better rates for financing a PV installation in the house of the person who wants the money than for any other reason. I mean, it's green energy and it has better conditions, I think.
When deploying financing solutions, either leasings or PPAs, you're somehow contractually reaching agreements with your clients. You're often shifting the risk elsewhere. How do you see the industry managing that risk, right? The risk of clients not paying and claiming issues in production yields, etc., or the fact that maybe in the future with lower prices companies might not be willing to pay for their PPAs if the market is below that committed price, right?
Do you want to continue your answer? Well, of course, counterparty risk is one of the big challenges when you offer a PPA. Yeah? And at NU, we don't work on the segment of B2C, so it's quite different. We just do B2B. We see that it's an increase in interest on PPAs. Of course, I mean, market is changing. We need to educate the clients and say, okay, paybacks, 5-year paybacks are not anymore here. I mean, but still, I mean, the installation will be working for 30 years. I mean, it shouldn't be a problem, yeah. Counterparty risk, of course, we run a very strict counterparty risk analysis. And it would be nice, as some of our colleagues said, to have a plan B and to have a grid access, to those projects. This way, counterparty risk analysis would be, I mean, easier to do, and the PPA price that we would be offering the client would be even better. Actually, it's not the first time I'm sharing in a conference that I think one of the measures that the government should put in place instead of giving grants, I mean, remuneration schemes, not for batteries. For batteries, we do need, it's urgent, some remuneration, but PV standalone, we don't need remuneration scheme. We should shift this remuneration or grants to maybe more sophisticated solutions, because we do have sophisticated clients, very sophisticated clients nowadays, to, for example, funds that cover this counterparty risk. I mean, most of the companies that we are dealing with PPAs, of course, we are signing several projects every year. But I mean, our portfolios are not huge. Nobody has a huge PPA portfolio, so we don't have this mitigation in place. Government could have a mitigation in place with a fund, and so we could offer, especially those companies that needed the most, better PPA prices, with portfolio management, and covering this risk. Because it's true that we can ask for a bank guarantee, we can ask for a parent company guarantee, but in the end, especially local companies, Spanish companies, might not be enjoying of PPA options or in not that good conditions.
Yeah, maybe a topic we didn't touch on with regards to financing and different financing structures. What we've seen is like a huge increase in interest rates, right? And that has become an impact for the market. On the one hand, when interest rates go up, the off-takers, they have less, financial capacity to implement solar self-consumption projects. And what we've seen a switch from, clients looking for an EPC, solution and moving towards a off-balance sheet PPA structure, so that they can carry out, their projects, benefit from cost savings, but not, they don't have to provide the capital nor worsen their financial ratios. So I think that's been positive for the market. On the other hand, we don't have the tailwinds in terms of high power prices that we had last year because of the Ukraine war. But still I think the drivers are strong enough to keep a strong momentum within the industry. And yeah, from the EKI side, we are flexible. We can offer both the EPC and the PPA solution. We've got capital available, 100 million euros. And I mentioned earlier that we were strong in logistics, but of course, the core focus right now is industrials because it's a more developed segment. I think the rooftop solar logistics market is coming, but up until now, it's been about industrials. And in that regard, yeah, we've been offering both on-site and off-site PPAs to provide a 100% green and competitive power solution.
Okay, thanks, Lorenzo. I don't know if anyone else wants to elaborate on the financing.
Yeah, I can't speak to the larger projects, but the sort of smaller commercial stuff and the residential stuff, people spend more money replacing their kitchen than they do on buying a solar system. I think that we kind of miss the opportunity that there are people who already have enough funds to go and buy their own solar system. In Germany in 2020, the installers, the amount of systems that they offered to the general public, to the residential sector, only 8% of those systems had batteries and storage with them. This year it's 94, 95%. And the vast majority of that is people purchasing the products themselves because they realize it's a good and sensible opportunity to save money for their own personal home. So I think, sometimes it's about communicating clearly to your audience what the opportunities are and then diverting their capital from maybe a new kitchen or a holiday to a residential storage system. So there's that. And obviously, it's helpful if banks get on board with looking at ways to help people finance that. But there's a huge potential with people who have the capital.
Yeah, and in Spain, probably they prefer to go on holidays than to invest that into a solar PV system.
Well, at the moment, because our industry I'm very sorry, but it's very techy. Everybody talks of technology, data sheets are unintelligible to the normal person. So we have to change the way in which we communicate to people to allow them to feel that they're part of our world. And at the moment, there's kind of too many technological blocks in the way. And we see with the brand AEG that people see that brand, they go, oh yeah, it's like a washing machine, it's like a dishwasher, it's something that will sit in my garage and look nice. So there's ways around the issues of finance.
Okay, and the last topic I had, at least on my list, is around other type of bottlenecks. We've seen in the market that given the boom, that there's a scarcity of qualified installers, that somehow, some players at least, are suffering quality problems, and they are not able to execute on time and with sufficient quality. Any hints on how to approach this, either to secure that internal capacity, any, say, potential agreements with the EPC contractors? So how are you guys tackling this? How are you guys ensuring that operations are streamlined from, let's say, lead identification to system fully connected and up and running?
Well, I think it was last year when UNEF started a course of qualified installers that was supposed to be mandatory first, but it didn't. It wasn't mandatory afterwards. I think that there is still nowadays a difference of data of different organizations regarding the installed capacity. So, first of all, we have to focus the PV self-consumption in one let's say public company that allows us to know with accurate how many megawatts we have installed. After that, we have to know that they are properly legalized. I mean, the same way we have, I don't know, the firefighting system there, and they have their revisions and so on. The PV in the rooftop should be the same. I think that's mandatory, and that will allow also people who thinks that it's unsecure for their company, for their industry, for their house, that would make the fear to disappear, so that the self-consumption can still increase in the following years.
I think it's clear and it's natural that a country that it's seen how it's a 100% increase year on year in the market, we for sure have quality issues and health and safety issues. But it's true, and this is not Germany, Stuart, it's super difficult to differentiate and say, hey, we are giving quality, we are giving health and safety, and our workers are, they are safe here in this installation. The market in Spain is extremely price sensitive, and we should be working on it. Yes, definitely.
Vladimir?
It's not easy.
Yes.
Vladimir, you wanted to add something on this?
Yes, just globally on European level, if the governments are about to hit all the targets that they announced for 2030, we need additional 850,000 people in the solar industry alone to be joining in order to realize these targets. Right now, there are about 450,000 people overall in Europe, so we need to have 200% growth in the next coming years, which is extremely challenging. As an EPC company, we do self-perform also installations, so we have, let's say, administration of about 70 people and more than 300 people installers, and it's very difficult to attract talent because, as Stuart said, the industry is very technical, it's not that sexy, right? The hardware is moving much faster than the software, so the soft things around the solar industry, like digitalization, like software supporting all the activities, is moving much slower than the hardware, and the technologies that we are able to implement do not travel that quick because of these limitations. So I was participating in a solar job fair organized by Solar Power Europe, and we were actually discussing, okay, what do we do in order to make the solar industry more sexy so people can really join it. And unfortunately, we didn't come up with too many things, to be honest. I mean, one of the major aspects here that is a hurdle, especially in bigger projects, is that people must travel around, and they definitely prefer to join a factory that has been moved from China to Europe to shorten the supply chain, and just go to one specific place to work and create a better lifestyle. So the lifestyle of people actually realizing solar projects is not that, attractive when you compare it to other industries. So in this sense, one of the single things that could work is really remuneration. Of course, caring about the environment is one thing, but unfortunately there are not too many enthusiasts joining either the installation side or the administration and technology and engineering side just because of this. So we need to make sure that people are getting paid better in the industry so that we can generate the results that, you know, all the good and nice reports are promising.
Okay, so we have time just for one more comment. I think Stuart wanted to make a point on quality, probably.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if anybody here would like to have a guess at how many energy storage system manufacturers there are in China. Anybody like to guess how many companies making storage systems in China? Yeah? How many? Well, I understand, but there's more than 35,000 companies making storage systems in China. And in a world where everybody said Spain is price sensitive, you get an offer from a company that says they make solar storage systems, and you think, oh, I can shave another couple of cents off my offer to the end customer. You really, really have to work hard and make sure that the quality of the products that you select actually reflect the quality of the products you wish to deliver. And it's a dangerous road to go down to, I'll find the cheapest products and I'll sell them and then I can walk away and forget about it, because it comes back to bite you in the end.
So I'm receiving signs that we need to close. I just want to thank all the panelists for the insights and for the discussion, and thanks Energy Box for hosting us here today. Thanks.